This technique I'm about to show you is about tissue paper and tissue paper bleeds. So I cut up a bunch of different colored tissue paper into squares. Now you have to get art tissue paper that will bleed. Sometimes when you get tissue paper that's just for wrapping presents, it's not, the ink won't bleed out of those, it's not saturated enough. So I have tissue paper I got from an art store, and I have some paper and a cup of water. That's all you need. Now, this technique is really good for making washes, for backgrounds, or things like that. So let's go ahead and switch to my document camera. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just put a piece of tissue paper directly on my paper. There's no glue, there's no water yet, it's just dry on dry. Then I'll dip a brush, a paintbrush, directly into my water and paint water on top of this piece of tissue paper. Look, you can already tell that the ink is bleeding out from the paper. Now it's going to stay there, okay? It's stuck there right now. It won't stay there forever because it's just water, it's not glued. But for right now, it'll stay right there until it dries. Now I can pick other colors, I can overlap them. I dip my brush in the water and paint the water directly on top. And it sticks to the paper. And I can have fun with how I want these colors to bleed, like red into orange, red into blue. If they fold like that, I kind of like it. It makes interesting things happen, so I leave it. Get some yellow. You want to be thinking about the color wheel when you do this technique. Think about the colors that are next to each other on the color wheel because they'll blend nicely together. Colors that are across from each other on the color wheel will not blend well together. So this orange and blue wouldn't have looked super great, but the blue and red can go, and the blue and the yellow can go. So I'm slowly working my way out with different colors. Ooh, it's green. And brushing water over every single one. See, this one's not super smart. I just put a red next to a green, which might make it a little bit more brown, but that's okay. I can have a brown section. Yellow would look really nicely with any of these. You can go all the way to the edge of your paper. Now, like I said, this tissue paper is not stuck there forever. It's just stuck while it's drying. And when it dries, the paper will flick up, kind of come up a little bit. Flake up is the word I'm looking for. And the ink from this tissue paper will be left on your paper, like the dyes in the paper. Ooh, here's this pretty light blue. The darker colors work better. They show up better. The lighter colors are more subtle, so it kind of just depends on what vibe you want. Sometimes I do 2 at a time. Now you want to make sure you're covering the entire piece of tissue with water. If you don't, there'll be a lot of white spaces, and I like there to be white spaces. Sometimes I do that on purpose. But if you want it to be really colorful, then you want to make sure you're putting water over the entire piece of tissue. Ooh, purple. We haven't done purple yet. Well, I don't really have a lot of colors around that'll be good for purple. Maybe over here. Think about cool colors and warm colors. What would look better with each other? These are sticking together. All right. Oops. So if you've noticed, my tissue paper has now dried and it's starting to flake up. You can tell that it's separating out from the paper. So the tissue paper has dried and now it's flaking off of my regular sheet of paper. And I'm ready to start taking it off. So I can just literally slide it off. It comes right off, super easy. And I can throw this away. Sometimes I've saved that and used it for collages and things like that, but mostly I've just thrown it away. And now I have this beautiful, colorful canvas I can now work on top of. So there's a bunch of options I can do. Oh, look right here where there's, I did my green and red and then mixed into brown. So do think about your color wheel because you don't want a bunch of brown spots. So green and red are complementary colors, so they mix to brown. So think about mixing colors that are next to each other on the color wheel only. So now I can decide what to do on my paper. I could do like a silhouette of a tree and make it look like there's a sunset behind the tree. I could turn it sideways and do almost like a desert landscape with some kind of silhouetted rocks, which that's what I'm going to do. And now that I've just started to use Sharpie, I'm kind of thinking that was silly. I probably should have just used paint or something because this is going to take a long time to color in. But here's some kind of desert rocks coming up, and this is going to be kind of like a sunset in the desert. So now I'm going to sit here and fill in all of my silhouette rocks, which again, I could have used paint for this. I could still use my Sharpie, or I could have gotten black construction paper and cut out these shapes instead and just collage them right on top. So it's up to you. Now, this will take a while to color this whole thing in now that I've already started with Sharpie. So I'll press pause and show you what you can do after that. All right, so here we go. I've got it all colored in. I decided to use a little bit of paint and do some kind of landscaping in front of the rocks. Like I said, you could have painted the entire thing. I could have done a bunch of different things. I didn't have to do like a desert landscape. I could have done a silhouette of anything on top and made it look like a sunset, or I didn't even have to do that idea. I could have done anything on top, whatever I wanted. Another good thing for this technique is to do typography on top. It's a beautiful wash that kind of happens and it gets this beautiful piece of paper that's ready to do whatever you want on it. So you could do some kind of typography quote that's inspirational or something like that, or a song lyric. So I'm gonna do, let's see, what could fit with this landscape? Maybe I'll do "The earth without art is just eh." I love that quote because I agree with it. So I'm going to start writing "My earth without art is just eh." Now, I have kind of cultivated my own little style of calligraphy, basically turning what I already do with my own cursive handwriting, and I've turned it into calligraphy by making the down strokes of each of the letters darker and thicker. So now I'm going to go back through and do that to all my letters. Now, if I had an actual calligraphy pen, I would do this all in one step. But since I'm just using a Sharpie, I'm doing it in 2 steps. And there we go. Hope you enjoy this technique. I can't wait to see what y'all come up with.